You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about being an overcomer. That's so important to think about, right? Because we're going to have times in our life where we're pushed down, shoved down, we trip, we fall, we can't get up. But it's that rally, it's that fight, it's that vigor, it's that tenacity that are in overcomers. I truly believe we all have that ability. Even for some of you listening and you're thinking, Nancy, I just don't have it in me. I've given all I can. Or I don't have that same winning spirit that I got to get it, that hunger that others have. I believe you do. I think we just got to tap into it. You know, that's where passion is so critical. So we're going to be talking about that today. I want to make sure you also stay tuned. Our inspirational guest coming up today, David Garlock, really inspiring story. After being sexually abused, spent 13 years of his life in prison, major years of his life, the youth, all the times when he should have been having life adventures. But did he complain? Did he turn to toxic behaviors? No, he rallied, he fought, he knew that he had a life of purpose. So I can't wait to share that story with you. I also want to make sure that beyond today's show that you do reach out to us if you have any questions at all. Our email is connect@livingfullout.com. And please feel free to go to livingfullout.com, check out all of our episodes. They're right there waiting for you. Or if you have Alexa, you can call us up there. Or even in the App Store, just look for the Living Full Out Show. It's free, and you can listen to us on the go. But I find that it's so important to wrap ourselves in motivation. And I do walk the walk, I talk the talk, I do all that. And I find that it's essential. Now, personally, I love going to my iPhone daily, and I have my go-to podcast. Besides the Living Full Out Show, I have that on there as well, like to listen to past shows. But I find that it's really important to hear, different points of view. And for all of you, who have your favorite, maybe podcast app or whatever that looks like. For me, it's Apple Podcast. It's just really important that you have those motivational speakers, those experts that you trust, that you can grow with. Because growing, learning, that's how we expand. And when we talk today about becoming, being an overcomer and becoming that, it's the times that we're in trials in our life that we grow the most. I know for me, I was a good gal. Like before I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, I was a happy kid, a little on the shy side, but, I had a future ahead of me and I was excited for it. But going blind has definitely been a rough patch. Well, maybe decades of patches, in learning how to function in a very sighted world without seeing. But it has put in me survival skills and even great entrepreneurial skills that I don't know if 2020 Nancy would have that same vigor. And so again, where it may seem like a tragedy, devastating, and it has been over the years, it's actually been my superpower. And it would be very interesting for all of us to think about, what is our superpowers? What does that look like? And it's going to be different for all of us. And, being blind, taking away sight, taking away that sense, all my other senses are full of life, right? Especially my sense of hearing. Honestly, I have a Labrador and a Chihuahua, and I think I hear better than both of them. Okay. And that's saying a lot. But it's also one of those things where sometimes a superpower is a skill that you have. If you're really good at tech, if you're an amazing cook, we all don't have those abilities. That's really amazing. You want to harness that and do good with your superpower, right? So maybe it's what you do for your career. But maybe it's something you can do in terms of volunteering, to give back, to make someone else's life better, easier. I know for me, I have this app on my phone called Be My Eyes. and it's a free app. It's for those of us that can't see. They are our eyes. And it's volunteers all around the world. And any one of you can even be a volunteer. I go to that app. I select, call a volunteer. And right away, somebody is right there to see what I can't. And sometimes people are cooks. They are tech experts, and I kind of get lucky on that. But here they are paying it forward what their superpower is, helping me. Again, you have that ability as well. Now, being an overcomer is something that has to be lived. Okay, you don't automatically have a rough patch in life and then you're an overcomer 1 minute later. An overcomer learns how to assess. They learn how to navigate. They learn how to make calculated decisions, but ones that they know that if they were in Vegas making a bet, they would bet on themselves. They know they can do it. And again, you want to think about in your life, if you were going to bet on you, what would that look like? Let's just talk about dating, for example. So I know so many of you, it is a grind, right? Whether you're on an online website or you're on an app, it's still, there's a lot of ghosting out there. There's a lot of misleading profiles. But you have to bet on yourself. You have to bet on that future partner that you're going to meet and not cancel it all out. You only need one, right? I guess there's some people that want to date more than one people, but a lot of people, they're just looking for that person they can run with. So you don't need everybody in the world. You just need that one person that gets you. But to be an overcomer in dating means that you don't look back at past relationships as a waste of time or a mistake or what was I thinking? You look back at them and you think, wow, that was interesting, or I could have really made some better decisions. And when you know better, you will do better, right? So it is important to harness that education of your past to allow you to be the overcomer you can be going into your future. And when I think about career transitions, we've all been there, right? Sometimes you're stuck in a job and you're like, well, this pays my bills and I really don't have time to look for a job, because we all know looking for a job is a job. Well, you have to bet on yourself. You have to be that overcomer. You have to say, you know what, I know that this is not my highest and best use. I know that I could be giving more, doing more, making a bigger impact. And an overcomer doesn't just sit in indecision. An overcomer takes action. They may not do it quickly. They may, tippy-toe around or put their big toe in the water. What I mean by that is you might go on and research. You might talk to people. You might volunteer or job shadow or, try a position on to see if what you're considering is a good fit or is not. But once you do those action steps, your confidence is going to soar. You're going to be like, you know what? I can do this transition. And then you know what? You're going to get creative. You're going to save money. I remember back when I graduated from the University of Oregon, and I knew, as much as I love Oregon, I knew that I was not meant to spend the rest of my days in the rain. So I had my sights set on California. And I gave myself 6 months. And I said, in this 6 months, I am going to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever I have to do to make as much money as I need to make that move. And I did. And I've never looked back. Still in California today, decades later. And I share that with you because a lot of times when I am talking to one of my coaching clients, let's say, it's amazing how many blocks we put in front of ourselves. I'd like to do this, but ... Or that's good for other people, but it won't work out for me because ... And I firmly believe that we all have such great potential. It doesn't matter if you're short. It doesn't matter if you're bald. It doesn't matter if you're blind like me. You have the ability to be that overcomer. But you do have to assess the past and look at what you've learned. You do have to maintain optimism daily. And a lot of times listening to positive podcasts, surrounding yourself with the right people, maybe journaling, tapping into your spiritual side, whatever that looks like, just to keep yourself strong, despite the hurdles that will come up daily, because we know they do, right? And then you have to be, an overcomer is a visionary also. An overcomer does better when they have a goal, when they see a brighter future, when they know that it's not just about the grind, it's not just about doing, it's knowing that they're worth it, that their future is waiting for them. They just sometimes have to pay their dues or buy their time. So I believe if you do that, you will come out the other end living full out. That's the whole premise of what we're talking about today. And as I mentioned early on in this segment, our inspirational guest coming up next, David Garlock, I'm telling you, you will never meet a nicer, kinder person. But honestly, he's been through it. He's a warrior, and he would sit beside you every step of the way in weathering your storms. So please stay with us. Let's all take a stand and listen in to what David Garlock has to say. We'll be back.
Life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about being an overcomer and fighting through storms in our life. And our inspirational guest today, David Garlock, has been through many different storms, some more epic than others. I don't want to give his whole story away. You're not going to exactly identify with every point in his story, but what I think is so treasuring about it is really we all have that ability to trust our inner voice, to lean on our faith, to see good ahead of us, even though we're in dark times. And that's where I feel David's story really is so inspiring. So I'd like to welcome David to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, and David, I'm so happy to have you. There's so much to your story I want to get to, but I want to let our audience know. I know when you were growing up, your family was a bit dysfunctional. Your dad, I know, obviously suffered from post-traumatic stress from Vietnam. Your brother and your sister both kind of got kicked out of the home at early ages. I know your mom leaned on you a lot in terms of being her support, and that was a lot for little David without all that was still coming. But I know that when your brother got kicked out of the home and he found his transitional housing, it was really at that point where someone stepped into his life, his abuser, that hugely affected your life as well. Who was that person?
Well, it was a non-family member that had just gotten out of prison in South Carolina and had moved to Washington State and befriended the person that was running this group home in Seattle, Washington, just so he could have access to young boys. And he chose my brother as the person that he was going to start molesting, and that went on for a couple months, and then he forced my brother to move out of the group home into a home with him.
And his name was Ray, right?
Yes.
And I really feel for your brother because he was so young and that pressure. And I know that Ray was clever. He figured out even a way to get you over to his house along with your brother. I know he'd for a short time invited your mom, who was living in California, to live with Ray and your brother, and that's what kind of got you there. But when you entered into that environment, it was when you were 11 years old that the abuse started for you. What was that first moment? Where did he eventually first start grooming you?
Well, I mean, I had gotten a call from my brother on January 1st, 1991, and he wanted me to come over and just to watch the bowl games with him because I'm a big football fan and I have always been. And I told my brother that I had plans with my dad, and then finally, probably about 30, 40 minutes after us going back and forth, he put my mom on the phone. And this was the first time I had talked to my mom in 2 years. And so once I knew that she was there, I was like, okay, I want to go over there and see her. And so I'd asked my dad, and he's like, okay, that's okay. So I went over there. Probably the first 2 or 3 hours was just watching football, catching up. And then Ray's like, hey, let's play hide and go seek. And as an 11-year-old, that's what you do. You play games like that. And we went downstairs into the basement, and I found a good place to hide. And he found me, and instead of like stopping the game, that's when the initial abuse began.
Well, and I'm so sorry. I know that abuse went on until you were 19, which is many, many years. And it was obviously sexual abuse, but also physical abuse, and he would give you both some severe beatings. And we don't want to sensationalize the fact that, he was murdered by you and your brother. But I am very curious because I know that's not who you are. Like it must have taken so much for you to get there. And I also know that after the murder did occur, it started kind of an emotional prison for you. What got you to that point, you and your brother? Did you plan it, or was it just you'd had enough?
Yeah, I mean, there was really no planning as far as it. It was just in psychology. They talk about this point where you see red, and that's where a person is just filled with so much rage and hatred and just anger, and that's really what had happened. And I was just really baffled that the murder did take place, because I never thought that would get to that point. And then, like you said, I mean, it was a period from the murder till when I was arrested, 4 months. And that was probably some of the hardest time of my life, because I'm living with the fact that I had taken somebody's life. And so my coping mechanism during that time was drugs and alcohol. Every day I was drunk or high, or drunk and high. And it was just the only way that I could get through this and live with the fact of what my brother and I had done.
Well, and you reacted. I would react exactly like you when you got arrested. I mean, I would think, that's it, death penalty, tell me, give it to me straight. But a detective said some words to you that really changed how you spent the rest of your days in prison. What did he say to you?
Yeah, so after I had confessed and he was driving me back to the county jail, I'm asking him, am I going to get the death penalty or life without parole? And he turns to me and he asked me, he's like, do you believe in God? I'm like, thinking in the back of my head, I'm going to be in prison for a long time. I have enough time to think about God if I want to. So I asked him again, death penalty, life without parole. And he's like, do you believe in God? And so we went back and forth a couple times. And finally, I said, yes, I believe in God. And he's like, you need to seek him now. So when I got back to the county jail, I asked for a Bible, and they gave me a little New Testament Bible. And I had grown up in the church, so I didn't go to Matthew or John or Romans. I went to Revelations, and I got to Revelations 3:20 that says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone opens the door and allows me to come in, I will come in and sup with him. It was right then when I cried out to God. And I knew that he wasn't just going to open the doors, but I knew that I needed him. And instantaneously, this peace and joy came over me, and I knew that everything was going to be okay.
Well, and I'm so glad that you had that detective, because I think there's great detectives out there, and that was one of them. And, he could have bullied you. He could have, tried to scare you even more or made you feel worse about yourself. But I'm so glad that that person took a stand for you going into, 13 and a half years of your prison time with that outlook, with that, ability to lean on your faith. And for everybody listening, we're going to be coming right back shortly with more of David's story. But, whether it's faith in your life, whether it's, one really good, close relative or friend, we need those moments. And when you have that, you got to treasure it. You got to wrap your arms around it, absorb it, because we can get through hard times. If David can get through what he got through in prison, you can get through what you're going through as well. So we're going to be coming right back, more with David Garlock. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math,
I learned that I'm trash. The only thing I didn't learn in school today.
The only thing I didn't learn today.
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
I'm Nancy Solari, certified life and business coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Bootcamp. During the bootcamp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
They'll challenge your authority.
Seatbelt on.
They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
7 million children suffer from asthma, more than any other chronic disease. Most asthma attacks are caused by allergic reactions to allergens, including those left behind by cockroaches and mice. In fact, 82% of U.S. households contain mouse allergens, and cockroaches are found in up to 98% of urban homes. How can you protect your family? Find out at pestworld.org. A message from the National Pest Management Association and the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about being an overcomer. And that means that you assess, you feel through what's happening in your life, but you are bound and determined to not let it, be your destiny, that disappointment, that devastation, that you see a brighter future down the line. And our inspirational guest today, David Garlock, is of that same mindset, so much so that it is what got him through his 13 and a half years of prison. So I'd very much like to welcome David back to the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Now, David, honestly, you're so awesome in so many ways. But one of the things that I think is really impressive is when you got out of prison, you worked hard. When I tell people that you had a mindset of looking forward into your future, I mean it. You worked multiple jobs. You were bound and determined to go to college. And in 9 short months after prison, you went to college. You made your way there. Some money you earned yourself through your job, some loans, some in terms of scholarships. But that's an amazing achievement. And then because you had actually used your time in prison to educate, you actually went into school with credits under your belt. So you were able to graduate within a relatively short amount of time. And when I think about that, I think, wow, I mean, you could run circles around people who haven't even gone to prison. I mean, that is so impressive. But I think what is even more impressive, but I wanted our audience to know that, is just how you look at the world, I think is really interesting. And how you look at how you came out of your pain of being abused by Ray. Can you share with our audience the concept of a scar versus a scab and how that related to you and your brother?
Yeah, so I do a lot of public speaking, and in it, I talk about trauma. And I use this analogy of a scab and a scar. And so we know that if somebody has a scab and we hit that scab, the scab comes off and then you bleed and there's pain. And then what happens is there's another scab, and if you go and you knock that scab off, you go through the whole process of the pain and the blood and again. And then it's just a cyclical process where it's just this constant cycle that you're going through. And that's somebody who really hasn't dealt with their trauma, hasn't gone through the healing process. And it's kind of like where my brother is at this point. He hasn't taken the time to seek a counselor and to really work on what had happened to us. And a score is, we know that when we have a score and we hit the score, it's not going to bleed. It's not going to be painful unless we hit our hand or that score really hard. But that score shows us and reminds us of the pain and the hurt and everything that we went through, but it no longer has the power over us as the scab did. And I'm kind of where that score is, because what I experience doesn't control me anymore. And I'm able to use my score to show and to share with others so they can begin their healing process.
I really am so grateful that you shared that, because I think everybody's pain in life is going to be different. But I think when I first heard that from you, it really stuck with me. So I appreciate you sharing that with our audience. And what I think is also fascinating about your story, and you know this as a man of faith, life just unfolds the way it naturally should. One of your first jobs after college that you got hired for, not knowing exactly the details of the job, but you got the yes and you got it, was you were helping the offenders. What was that job? What did you do, and what did you learn from it?
So actually, it was like 2 months before I graduated from college. I applied to this job that my wife had found on Idealist. And it was a Christian reentry home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'm like, wow, this is perfect. The thing that I didn't know is that 95% of the population were people who had committed a sexual offense. I didn't find that out until my first conversation with the executive director. And after I shared my story with him, he's like, the population we work with is this. Can you work with them? And I told him, I'm like, absolutely, because I believe in grace. I believe in mercy. I believe in redemption. And I'm a client of Brian Stevenson, and one of his famous quotes is, "You're not as bad as worse than you've ever done." And so if I didn't want people to look at me as a murderer, I had to look at these individuals not as the offense that they committed, And so every day I went to work, I looked at it as far as restorative justice. So I was able to go and help these men heal. A lot of these individuals wouldn't be able to talk to the person that they had harmed. So I was able to be a victim by proxy for them. And we were able to have discussions. We were able to talk about the offenses that they committed and really get to a point where they asked me as the victim by proxy to forgive them. And then what was so powerful is that they were able to forgive themselves. And this job actually got me working on a national landscape around this population, And when you think about the registry and you think about the way that this population is treated, they're looked at as monsters. But what's important is for people not to judge them by the worst thing that they've done, but to get to know them and to look at them and to see them as human beings. Yes, they committed horrible offenses, but we have to look at them as a human being and a person.
Well, I definitely agree. And I mean, wow, amazing that you've had that opportunity because now you see both sides. But you and your brother did murder Ray and you did pay your time for that. But where do you put your emotions around Ray? Have you forgiven him now that you've had that experience working at that organization? Or have you not forgiven Ray because, he never was held accountable?
I mean, yes, I've forgiven him. It was part of the whole healing process. I probably started some of the healing process while I was incarcerated. And one thing that I always talk about is that to get through the abuse, I had to create different masks. Psychologists would call it disassociation. And, these masks helped me get through the abuse, and while I was incarcerated, I was able to take those masks off. And part of taking those masks off was forgiving Ray, and just putting it out there, because I knew if I didn't forgive him, forgiveness isn't about the other person. Forgiveness is always about the person that's getting the forgiveness, because you no longer have to carry that hurt, that pain, whatever was done to you. And if the other person accepts the forgiveness, whatever, that doesn't matter. What it is just you being able to get and give everything off of you.
Yeah, I get that. And, you are, your faith's important to you. It's given you strength. You're naturally an extroverted, positive person. Even with, subtract all this abuse, that's just who you are at the core. But today we are talking about being an overcomer in life. And for the audience listening who says, wow, I am not as strong as David, what words of advice would you have for them in being an overcomer in their life? Because you've absolutely done it in yours.
I mean, the first thing is to take it one day at a time, and don't judge yourself by other people. It's so easy in our society today to get on social media and to see where other people are and be like, oh, that person's healed more than I am, or they're doing this or that. Each one of us has a specific call and purpose in life. So just to look at yourself, and take it one day at a time, and know that healing is a journey. It's not just going to be a 100-yard sprint. It's going to be a marathon. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be really ugly days. But the thing about it is just keep pressing on. It's kind of like a 12-round boxing match. Say I'm boxing against Mike Tyson. In the first 11 rounds, he knocks me down, but I get up each round. We go to the 12th round, and if I knock him out in the 12th round, I win. It doesn't matter that I got knocked down in rounds 1 through 11. What matters is that I knocked Mike Tyson out in round number 12.
I love that. And you've turned to your faith through a lot of my trials in life. I've leaned on mine as well, and it's given me a lot of peace and a lot of strength. But I'm sure over your time of working with both those who have been abused as well as those who have abused, and just real quick here as we round out the interview, aside from faith, what's another positive coping mechanism that somebody can do to deal with this pain?
Find somebody who has been through the same experience. We find so much strength in other individuals who are further along in the journey, because it's like the scar, when we see that somebody's been able to heal and go through what we have, it gives us hope. It gives us determination. It says, okay, Billy Joe Bob did it, so I can do it too.
Well, Billy Joe Bob can do it, and David Garlock can do it, then we can all do it. Right?
Absolutely.
Well, David, I just really am sending you a through the mic hug And I'm proud of you because really you could have made so many other choices in life. You could have leaned on drugs and alcohol forever. You could have stayed in a place of angry and even denial. But the way that you forged ahead, got educated, used that as your superpower, your heart, your faith, everything in between. I'm just really proud of you. So thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thank you for having me. And I just love being able to be an encouragement to others. One verse that I love is 2 Corinthians 1:3-4. It says, God is a God of all comforts and tender mercies, and he comforts us so we can comfort others, and that's what I get a chance to do, when I share my story. God's comforted me. Now I get to comfort others through sharing my story and what I've been able to overcome and do with the life that I have.
Yeah, and you do that so well. We are truly the lucky ones. So thank you so much, David, for being on the show. And for everybody listening, today it is about being an overcomer in your life. We're going to continue to talk about that, and we'll be coming right back after this break.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number. alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
When it comes to being an overcomer, you have to truly believe that it's not that other people deserve greatness or they have skills and talents that you don't have, that you do have it. We just have to look inside, find those skills and talents, and turn them up. Always remember, ahead of you is great things. Partnerships, relationships, the career you want, and most of all, self-love. You just have to take one step at a time in living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
I am so excited and am so proud to be here with you today as we've been talking about being an overcomer, and really love this topic because I think sometimes we have to be reminded that what we want in life is possible, that we're not lacking skills, that we have exactly what we need to step into what we want to be and who we want to be. But I think sometimes we have to give grace. We have to give time to harnessing that overcoming power, right? It doesn't happen overnight. I remember when I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, the doctor told my mom and my 2 sisters and I, we all 3 have the same eye condition. And he basically said, prepare, do all you want to do now and all you want to see now, because you'll all pretty much be blind around 40. And that is a gulp moment in life like nothing I ever thought. It was game on. It was, okay, let's travel, let's go to school, let's do all the things that we need to see and do because we don't know when we won't be able to. And as I journeyed through my 20s, it seemed like every couple of years my vision would get worse. It would just take these jumps. And then when I hit my 30s, it was, even faster jumps. And there was a time when I was driving, and then it was almost as if overnight that the lines on the road disappeared. I can't even tell you, it's so surreal. And when you are a senior citizen or you're a person losing your vision, you negotiate a lot with giving up that independence of driving and when to do that. And I would drive only certain hours, midday, not at sunset, not at sunrise, not when it was super bright. But boy, literally when the lines were gone, I knew that it was game over for driving. But during that time in my life, I was selling real estate. I was a top producer over in the Santa Monica, Marina del Rey area of Southern California. And as you can imagine, in Southern California, everybody drives. And, not many people don't expect their realtor to be the one to drive them around. But I couldn't drive. So I had to get really creative. I had to not just pack my bags, not just, put the covers over my head and go to sleep for like a week. I had clients that were depending on me. I had people that had been looking for months and sometimes years, and they were aggressive in their searches, and they were finding properties, and they wanted to see them, and they wanted to write offers. And let alone not be able to see the lines on the road, even trying to read a piece of paper, the font was getting very small, and that was just a matter of blind spots on my eyes starting to take over. And the thing is, as the overcomer inside me, we had a little sit down, Nancy to Nancy, and I figured out the bus system, because this was back before ride shares. Your choice was drive, walk, cab, which was expensive then, or bus. And so I would take anywhere between 2 to 12 buses in a day showing property. I would get there really early. I would turn on every light, try to make it look as bright as I could possibly make it for myself and for them. I'm pretty sure they knew something was wrong with my eyesight. I can't tell you how many times we'd be looking at properties and they would hear a bang, and that was Nancy running into the wall, or a little yelp, and that was Nancy falling into the living room off a step. And then I would show the property. I would let them leave. They would jump in their BMW or Mercedes or whatnot. And then I would walk back to the bus and I would catch my next one. And you better believe it, buses got missed. Sometimes they didn't show up on time. Really long days. And at the end of each day, I had the moment where I could either cry and be a victim, or I could say, well, we're not taking that route again. I found that humor was everything. I found that, to be an overcomer, you have to be tenacious, you have to take action, but you also have to have a sense of humor, because you can plan to the 10th power, but something's going to go sideways. And that's true for everyone. But see, those qualities of humor, planning, recalculating, that's what overcomers do. And so as we round out today's show, I want you just a peekaboo at what's happening in your life. And I want you to assess. I want you to plan. I want you to prepare for the unexpected. I want you to pack your humor, because this game of life is meant to be played. Not every hand that you're dealt, not every card that you turn over is going to be a good one. But you have to keep pressing forward. I love Monopoly. Love that game. Not really good at it, but I love it. And as you go around the board, you collect $200, right? Well, you got to go around the board. You got to know that I might land on a space that has like 2 hotels on it. I'm going to lose the game. Well, maybe you will lose the game. But you have to be able to get out there and press forward. And I believe in all of you. And I want you, the overcomer in you, to believe in yourself. Because when you do that, guess what? You are living full out. We want to thank you very much for listening today. We've got Dirk and Andrew and Caleb and so many others that are just taking a stand, making sure that you have all this great content, all the motivation that surrounds you and wraps you up, so that you have the strength to dig in, find your overcomer, and let it shine. Remember to go to livingfullout.com to hear today's show, or share it with a friend who may need to hear these same words. As always, I believe in you. Know that we're here for you always. Reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com if you need support. Here's to you living full out.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Here's to you, living full out.